Behind the Wheel with Peter Hitchener and Chris Miller. Driven by behindthewheel.com.au.
When do we go for a ride?
Oh, we're back, baby. Welcome to 2018 Behind the Wheel. Really thrilled to
Me too. Happy New Year. It's great to talk to you. And to everyone who's listening, anyone who's listening, Happy New Year. I think Miller's actually been overdoing the New Year cheer. Are you with us?
I think my mouth is finally in sort of gear with my brain. Look, you know, you get out of practice after a few weeks.
Don't you
off
just?
from a radio
It's
station.
good to see you again, legend. You're sounding good.
You're looking well
still here.
rested.
It's day to day, but I'm still here.
Now, you've had what I can only describe as a massive summer. Of course,
Yes.
back on the telly each and every night, Channel 9 in Melbourne for National 9, not National 9
It's
News
just
anymore, it's just
9
9
News.
News.
Yes.
And of course, you can stream him if you don't
If you
live in
want to.
Victoria.
Oh, we'd love you to.
But I get the feeling that we're not going to see you crashing a leaf broadcast on the
Not
on the
anymore.
9 News simulcast.
No. So here's what happened. My holidays were like this. First of all, to Japan for 10 days.
Yep.
And during which time, of course, I did spend a lot of time with cars, looking at them.
Yep.
And in fact, taking a Nissan Leaf, the new model, for a test drive.
Now, we're going to hear about that later in the
Yes.
show to find out how it went down and how much damage you actually did to
Well,
this
if it
thing.
had been a real car, it would have been a lot. You should have seen the looks on everyone's faces, though, when it happened. It was hilarious.
And, of course, a little bit of a flavour of the streets of Tokyo. I
just
was
a
lucky
little bit.
enough to hear some bits and pieces before.
Yep.
Really looking forward to hearing your guide around the streets of Tokyo, going
Yes.
through that Nissan factory. It's coming up later in the show, along with an absolute cane around the block. In a completely legal sense, of course.
Of
In a
course.
BMW M4.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to taste both the BMW M3 and the M4 over the last couple of weeks. It's a car that, it's an iconic car. It's always had such a huge rap from everybody. Quite understandably, it is a precision instrument. It's fast, but it's also functional, easy to live with. The question that I'm going to pose, though, later in the show is, the version I had was the M4 Pure Edition.
Yep.
That's kind of BMW's way of saying it's a bit stripped out. It doesn't have quite as much kit on it
That's right.
that the standard M4 does. For example, you don't get a sunroof. You don't get leather seats.
I don't use a sunroof anyway, so I couldn't care less.
And can I say I'm so over leather it's not funny? Unless you've got kids or a dog, you don't need leather.
No.
Because otherwise you just slide around and burns your backside when you get in after the sun's been beating down on it. Fabric. Anyway, we'll go into that a little bit later as to, do you really need to stump up that extra 40 or 50 grand to buy the full edition of the M4, or will the M4 Pure do it?
Yep.
And what's the difference between the M3 and the M4? Is it just as simple as two doors?
Yeah, maybe it is. Well, maybe we can have a yarn to Lenore Fletcher from BMW. What do you think?
I think that'd be a great idea, but I get the feeling she's going to be focused more on a new release that's about to hit the shores in the next month or so.
yes.
It's called the BMW X2. It is another SUV, four-wheel drivey thing.
Thingy, yes.
It's a small, funky type one.
Yep.
Pictures of it so far make me think they're going to sell 1 billion of them.
Oh, it looks glorious.
and
I suppose, would it be about the same size as the Audi Q2, do you reckon?
Yeah, I suppose possibly a smidge bigger. Q2, I think more like Q3 size.
Yes,
I think
sort of in there
because
somewhere.
it's sort of the swoopy back version of the X1.
Yes, correct.
So and that one, I remember when we drove that about 18 months ago when it first came out, I was just amazed at how much space was in that thing.
How did they
Brilliantly
fit it in?
packaged. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yep.
A car that I know you've lusted after. Every time I'm in the car with you and you see one of these things, you always make some sort of emotive grunt to the.
Oh, yes, I love it. You're talking Maserati here, the Quattroporte, 4 doors of Maserati.
How long have they been
glorious.
around now, though?
Well, look, I reckon that I saw the first one when they first were released at the Melbourne Motor Show, and that was umpteen years ago.
Yep.
And I thought then, wow, that's just amazingly stylish. It's a big car.
Yeah.
It comes from Maserati, so you know it's going to be fabulous and exotic and over the top and in your face.
Yeah.
And it kind of still is, even though it's been redesigned since then and it's been updated. But the latest version is out, and we're going to find out more about it.
Excellent. Glenn Sealey, the CEO of Maserati, joins us shortly. And a car that's often compared with the Maserati Quattroporte is, of course,
The Toyota Camry. Hooray. No, he's joking, friends. He didn't mean that. But it does look more sort of sporty and, just sort of a little more out there, doesn't it, but the new model Camry, the imported one.
Indeed.
Yeah. What do you think?
Why don't we talk to Joel?
All right, then.
Everybody missed him. I know, Pete, I'm sure your email inbox was filled like mine with, where's Joel?
Where's
Joel?
he gone? What's happened to the man?
Has he gone to a beauty clinic to have his arms waxed? What's happened?
He's been busy, that's all we know. Busy having a holiday and then reporting on new cars.
I think he's been at the tennis, to be honest. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
You never know. But the new car that he's talking about today, I'm looking forward to hearing his report. Joel, greetings. Happy New Year.
Hello, guys. Happy New Year to you both and to all the listeners as well.
You did spend a bit of time at the tennis, I believe, as a guest perhaps of maybe a major sponsor, I'd imagine. Did you get to hang out with Rafa or Federer or any of those boys?
Well, yeah, the good people at Kia, they are the major sponsors, and they always have some seats available for their friends. And, got to go along and got to see probably the greatest tennis player of all time, Rafael Nadal. Roger Federer, rather, I should say.
Oh, Roger's marvellous.
The other one of the greats of all time. But no, I got to see Federer. And the interesting thing that because I'm not really a crazy tennis person, I love playing it, but I never really watch it, is that when Federer mishits something, it goes really, really wrong. Like it doesn't just hit the net and bounce. It goes like 18 rows into the stands. And I thought, they're my shots that he's playing. You know?
We are here, of course, to talk cars because that's what we love. And a car that, well, look, it's had a lot of love from kind of fleet managers over the years and sales reps. It's always been referred to as the Westinghouse motor vehicle, kind of like a fridge. You've got to have one. Runs reliable, but not all that exciting. Of course, Toyota shut up shop last year, sadly, and loads of Aussie workers out of work as a result.
Sadly.
But that means now the best-selling mid-size car in the country is a direct import from Japan, and you've been lucky enough, I believe, Joel, to be behind the wheel of the all-new Toyota Camry.
Yeah, and if you remember, one of the last chats we had prior to the Christmas break was from the launch of the Camry, where I got to drive the four-cylinder version on the launch day, and then I got to back it up with the four-cylinder version again last week. So I can't talk about the hybrid, and I can't talk about the V6. I've got those in another couple of weeks. So I'm well-versed on the four-cylinder, and yes, it comes from Japan, and it's certainly... look, you mentioned the Westinghouse and the boring part. I think they've certainly changed it to such a way, or in such a way, that you wouldn't mind having one in your driveway. But then, does that ruin what the Camry is all about? That's the equation. Because there are a lot of people who are drawn to it because it was so black and white and so basic and so simple. And it's a bit like Corolla. When you try and sexy it up, the sales generally don't go up; they generally go down. So it's going to be interesting to see with the Camry. And interesting, you mentioned fleet sales. Obviously, a lot of fleet sales over the years, but also a lot of older people have been drawn to the Camry. And I had the chance, when I had the car, to take an older relative of mine who's a male on the other side of 70 and a long-time Camry fan, a long-time Toyota fan. And he commented that he thought it was too low. He thought it was hard to get in and out of. So that's a bit of interesting feedback.
It is, isn't it? So the take-home point is many people in the market like their motoring on the bland side, reliable, but nothing that's going to set the world on fire because it's so out there and so in your face. Maybe that's what people want, just something conservative.
It's like when you go, out to a restaurant with, old Auntie Mavis who says, don't put mayonnaise on my stuff because mayonnaise is just too flash,
Maybe that's it.
There are some elements of the car that could be a little bit divisive. It's not like the old Camry, which was fairly bland in styling. It's actually got a pretty sexy look, especially at the front and at the back. It's got really low window line. So when you're sitting in the car, it really feels like the top of the doors are quite low. It creates quite an airy sort of cabin. It's a car that, you could drive it for a week and not really find anything that you won't like about it. And it certainly has, a bit more of a spirited and solid feel about it. It likes to sort of get in the corners a bit more than the Camrys of old. So it's actually a very, very good car. It just will, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating to see if people flock to it in the numbers that they have traditionally, especially now that, it's not Australian made.
So you had the four-cylinder version. How was it? Was it powerful enough? Did it get you around the corners the way you like?
Well, 2.5 litre four-cylinder, so reasonably sized.
Yeah, it's a carryover. It's the old one, isn't it? It's just the same drivetrain as the old car.
Exactly. It's a little bit more fuel efficient than the old one. They made a few tweaks on it. It's got 3 drive modes, Eco, Normal and Sport. In Eco mode, it's pretty dull, especially when you get to a hill and you want it to drop down a gear. It just seems to want to hold the gears. Sort of the same in normal. Sporty, it's adequate without being amazing.
So it's
probably
sporty,
the best way to put it.
sporty and name only sort of thing.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, but Sporty and Camry are very rarely used in the same sentence.
That's a very good point. Hey, price-wise, is it staying the same, gone up, gone down?
Yeah, pretty much. They've adjusted some prices down, some prices up. I had the top of the range of the four-cylinder version, so you're talking about $40,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but then you've got some great features, including inductive charging, which I've had it in some other cars, and it hasn't worked with my phone, but it worked just no problems with my iPhone. And
this is the wireless charging that Lexus have had for
yes.
years, that you kind of constantly put your phone on and it doesn't do anything.
Oh, this is brilliant. In the Camry, it's absolutely brilliant. I went on a couple of long road trips in the Camry. You just put your phone down on the pad, it holds it in place, it doesn't slide around, and it charges it a lot quicker than I thought. So no fiddling around, no distractions with cords and things like that. You just pop your phone down, and honestly, that's something we've got to get in every car, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
good idea.
Well, I think everyone needs to brace themselves for the onslaught of the all-new Camry. You can read about it, see it at the website behindthewheel.com.au. Joel, we'll chat next week. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.